Think we're live. Just okay. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. I just got back from an amazing vacation. We went to a little island in Florida that's called Captiva. So it was just really great because I got to like disconnect and we barely had any internet and we just would walk to the beach every day and I'm just like so recharged, but also so tired. Does that ever happen to you where you like go on a vacation and you come back and you're just like exhausted for some weird reason? But anyway, I'm back in town. I am back working. We're back to our episodes, even though the episodes never left. And I'm just super excited to talk to you guys today, like we do at every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern. We have the Business Breakthrough with Barbara show where we talk all things about starting, growing, and scaling a wildly profitable and fulfilling business through strategy, confidence, and intuition. Today's topic, I'm going to tell you today's topic, and then I'm going to say something before I forget, which is we're going to talk about what to do when you don't know what to do in your business. Has this ever happened to you? If you're watching live or if you are watching the replay, let me know. Have you ever like kind of like sat in front of your computer wondering like what should I do? What challenge should I host? What piece of content should I write? What strategy should I implement? And you kind of like become overwhelmed, like not knowing what step to take. And especially if you're going at it solo and you're trying to start and scale a business on your own, it's really hard to like make the decision of like what is the next step that's going to get me to my next client. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I think this is a struggle that a lot of my clients come to me with at some point or another. I think this is a struggle that a lot of you in this group talk to me about, and I have the perfect solution for it, which is very simple and also complicated at the same time. um, but yeah, that's where we're diving into today. Before I forget, because I forget almost every Monday. Every Monday, we go live for the Business Breakthrough with Barbara show. And um, I am picking a winner to win a free one on one coaching session with me. So, a lot of you in here have had one on one coaching sessions with me, and I know you love them. It's not something I do super often because I'm super tight on time with client work and all of the stuff that I'm doing. But I decided that for those of you who love the show and who are here live, I'm just going to do a raffle every Monday. So if you want to enter for a chance to win a one on one coaching session with me, just drop me your favorite emoji. I'm going to stop doing that because my table's moving a lot. But just drop me your favorite emoji like at the end of the week. I'm going to come back and I'm going to pick one of you who dropped me an emoji, and we'll get you set up for a complimentary coaching session, which will help you, obviously depending on where you're in business, but it will help you either get started. It will help you either figure out what you need to do in order to get to the next level. A lot of times when I do coaching sessions with you guys, I kind of like leave you off with a checklist of, okay, so where are you at? Where do you want to go? Let's figure out what are the things that you need to do. And I leave you up with like a specific checklist of what you need to be working on so that you don't feel lost while you're growing your business. So, anyway, if that's something that you are interested in and are excited about, definitely drop an emoji. And now that we got that out of the way, let's go into today's live stream. So, okay, so a lot of people ask me, like, what is the thing that's going to help me create success? What's the thing that's going to help me get clients? And I kind of like love and hate that question at the same time because there's not one thing, right? It's not like, well, if you write a post every week, then you're going to get a client. Like, it's not one thing. It's like the post and the email and the mindset work that you're doing and the confidence and the follow ups and the reach outs and the calls that you're hosting. Like, it's all the things that you're doing together that are going to help you like get your business to the next level and make more money and make more sales and get clients and all of that good stuff. But there is an attribute that I see in myself and my colleagues, in my most successful clients, that most of people who are really, really killing it online have, which is the capacity to just like consistently take action and trust themselves while they do it, right? So it's like, I have a coach, right? But that doesn't mean that everything I do in my business, I go and I ask my coach, like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And like a lot of things get brainstormed, but like also a lot of things don't. A lot of things are like, oh, you know what? I think based on this data that I collected, based on the content that I'm putting out, based on the responses that I'm getting, I believe that the best next step in my business is this, right? So it's like I feel confident enough to be able to manage my own business and to just consistently take action. Like a lot of my clients who are hitting six figures and doing amazing things, they're just like, they go into our next session and they're like, oh, by the way, I did this. By the way, I hired this person. By the way, I am running this challenge. By the way, I applied for this podcast, right? Like it gets to a point where a lot of the processing that we do, it's like deep level stuff versus like surface level decisions, right? Because they learn how to trust themselves enough to consistently take the action. That's not to say you never explore an idea with your coach, but that's just an example of what it truly takes to be consistently booked out, what it truly takes to make a ton of money in your business. It really requires you to be able to show up for your business as a CEO and as like a true entrepreneur where you're like, this is my business, this is my responsibility, I'm going to figure out what needs to get done. Obviously, though, obviously, especially when you're just first starting out, you need someone to help you navigate that. And especially if you have no business background, if you have no experience, if you really truly feel lost, like at the very beginning, those are things that you're going to learn when you work with a coach. But as time goes on, you learn them so well. Like a really good coach will teach you not just like what to do, but they will teach you how to figure out what the best thing to do for you is at all times and how you can decide to do that. Is this making sense? I feel like this is like deeper stuff that I'm just like rambling on, but I get on an internal level. So I just want to make sure that it's actually resonating with you guys, right? So when I go to my coach and I'm like, hey, I'm running this challenge in September. I don't go with like a question mark of like, hey, should I run this challenge? Do you think this is really good? Should I do this or should I do that? Should I apply to this pod? It's more of like, hey, I want to do this. Like, let's figure out what the best way to do it is. Because based on the way that my community is growing, based on the type of individuals that I'm getting into my email list, based on the responses that I'm getting from content, this is something that my people are struggling with. This is something that I think it's going to help them really well. And I think this is something that ties really well into whatever thing I'm selling afterwards, right? So, like, you learn how to make decisions really well, which I promise you this is all going to make sense, which ties really well with today's topic, which is how to know what to do in your business when you don't know what to do. So think about it this way. If you're always wondering, what should I do next? What content should I write? What angle should I take? Which group should I join? Who should I reach out to? Who should I ask to hop on the phone on? What type of emails should I send out? Should I apply to this podcast or should I apply to this podcast? You go into something that's called decision fatigue. You're literally spending every day, every second of the day trying to figure out like what the perfect thing is for you to do in order to get your next client. And not only does that keep you stuck, but it also takes a lot of your emotional and mental capacity, which starts to make business feel stressful and overwhelming and boring and just like heavy and hefty and just like, oh, I need to do this but I don't know what to do, right? Like, and you're not coming into your business from a space of like excitement and fun and just being happy to serve and having so many like intuitive downloads and just like taking action. You're coming from a place of like, oh my god, I feel like I need to do a million things, but I just never know which one I should do. So I sit in front of my computer for hours figuring out what I should do and then end up doing nothing or a very small percentage of what I could potentially be doing, right? Like you're totally cutting your potential if you spend so much time overthinking it. Okay. So there's a 3-step process that I teach all of my clients so that they don't have this problem, right? So that they know if they're ever feeling lost, right? Like it's not that a coaching container is not the place for that. It's just that the more empowered that my clients feel, and the more that they trust themselves and the more confidence that they build within themselves, the more money that they make, right? It's really not. So, the reason why I teach this a lot is because I honestly think one of the things that sets me apart from most coaches is that I don't want to make you dependent on me, right? Like, and just give me 1 second, guys. I want to check something in the group just to make sure that everything is good. So we actually set up today's live stream a little bit different than usual. Okay, perfect. So things are rolling. Just wanted to make sure that they were actually rolling, and I wanted to see your comments. Okay, so it's not it's not that as a coach you wouldn't be able to come to me and be like, hey, I'm feeling lost. Obviously that's the point of coaching. But one of the things that makes my clients so successful, not just while they work with me but in the long run, is this idea that I really help them become an empowered CEO, a confident CEO. And the only way to do that is to teach you, right, as my client, the tools and resources that you'll need to believe in yourself at all times, right? So if I was like, every time you had a problem and you didn't know what to do, I was like, okay, cool, let me help you figure it out. And I wouldn't teach you how to figure that out, then you're now dependent on me, right? Like now, when our coaching relationship ends, if you decide not to sign up, which most of my clients decide to sign up for a long time, but if you decide not to sign up, now you're feeling lost. And this is kind of like a situation that I see a lot in the online space where it's like people hire a coach, maybe they get a few results here and there, they grow their business a bit, but then after the coaching relationship ends, they feel like this need and desire to always have uh, someone by their side, which it's an amazing thing if you're doing it from a place of empowerment, but it's really not if you're still feeling lost and not knowing what to do after 6 months of coaching with someone. Is this making sense? Let me go back and see the comments. Okay, Donna dropped an emoji. Talina dropped an emoji. If you haven't dropped an emoji and you want to win a one-on-one coaching session with me, drop an emoji. Donna says all the time, and Lynn says yes. Okay, beautiful. So it's resonating. Thus far, it's resonating. So let's go into the three-step process, okay, of how you can always figure out what to do. Even if you're starting out, even if you've been in business for a while and you're just having a little hump along the way, even if whatever stage you're in, whatever you're struggling with to figure out, this is what I want you to do. And obviously, if you have a coach afterwards, go and process that with them. But even if you don't, you can figure this out on your own, okay? So, step number one is intuition. Okay, and I know some of you are like, yes, I love intuition. I love this type of talk. And some of you are like, what does that even mean? And I don't really even like that word or resonate with that word. But just bear with me for a second because I'm going to explain it to you in a way that most people don't. When I say intuition, just literally, like if that word doesn't resonate with you, you can just replace that word with self trust. Okay, so you have to open yourself to self trust. Okay, meaning you give yourself the space to listen to yourself. Okay. So it's really hard to figure out what to do when you're just scrolling through Facebook and trying to join another training or read all the posts or see what everyone else is doing. It's very, very hard to trust yourself when you're trying to find your answers from the outside world. Okay. So, in order for you to build this self trust, which is step number one of this process, and in order for you to be able to listen to your intuition, okay, which is you figuring out the answers from within yourself, you have to give yourself space. Close your computer tabs, put your phone on airplane mode, and sit down for a while, journal, uh, ask like whatever higher power or source you ask to, like, hey, what is my best step? What do I feel like it's the most exciting thing for me to do? What feels really good to me right now, right? Like based on where I'm at, what do I feel like I need to be doing? What do my people need? What are my clients asking for? What is my community craving, right? Like what is one question that keeps coming up? Should I create something free to build connection, or should I sell something right away because I've been creating connection for a while, right? Like you got to ask yourself the questions first. I'm not saying you're going to always get the answer by yourself, but 9 times out of 10, you will. Okay. And if you don't, eventually you will, right? Like right away, you will be able to figure out like what is one thing that I want to be doing right now versus what is one thing that I think I should be doing right now? Because everyone else outside of me is telling me that I should be doing this to grow my business or to get my next client. And when you take the time to like open yourself up and listen to yourself and listen to what feels exciting to you, then guess what? Now you're doing something that feels really exciting to you and that feels in alignment with you, and you trust yourself and you build that self trust muscle. Okay. And over time, you realize how powerful you are and how you truly don't need anything to grow that business. Because let's say today you spend 20 minutes with a notebook writing ideas down for your business, right? Like, okay, so my problem is that my community is really small and it's not engaging, right? And in order for me to sell my stuff, I need my community to engage. So, what solutions do I have for that? What are potential things that I could do to build more engagement in my community? What are potential things that I could do to grow my community? You start writing down ideas, you start writing down things that feel exciting. Maybe you're like, you know what? I love talking like me. I love talking. I'm just going to go out and apply to a whole bunch of podcasts and get my community visible out there, right? Or, you know what? I have never really even connected with my members. So I'm just going to go ahead and message a few of them and remind them that the community exists, right? So you start figuring out ideas on your own because you're trusting yourself that you know the answers. Then, step number two, it's about decision, right? Like so many of you have like this intuitive pull to do certain things, but then because you get stuck in the, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Is this the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Is this going to get me the client? Is this the perfect thing? Is this the perfect thing? You get stuck and it's really hard for you to make a decision. So then you start trying to find outside validation, right? Like, should I do this? Is this what this person does? Is this what this guru tells me in the webinar? Or is this what that post told me? And then you start questioning yourself and second guessing yourself, right? So you get stuck for even longer. But when you take the time to like just quiet the outside noise, listen to yourself, like ask yourself the questions that you would ask me. I always tell my clients, like, you can ask me any question that you want. And I want you to ask me any question that you want. But ask yourself that question first and see what comes from that. Okay. Because when you do that, you are learning how to find solutions and how to create actions that will grow your business faster. Okay. So if you're going to come to me with a question of like, hey, what do you think I should do next? I want you to ask yourself that question first. Like, what do I think I should do next? Or like, hey, I'm struggling to get book calls booked. What do you think needs to change in my strategy or the strategy that we came up with? Ask yourself that question first. Like, what do I think that needs to change in my strategy? Right? This way, you are becoming so dependent on you. And so many coaches hate that. Like, there are so many coaches who hate the fact that I teach something like this because they've made coaching be like a dependent thing. And I'm so freaking against that. I'm so freaking against you having to depend on someone to be able to grow your business. You should, especially if you work with a good coach for a long time, you should be able to grow your business with or without someone by your side. You want someone by your side because it's easier, more effective, faster. You have more fun. You have someone to bounce ideas with. You really get to the next level of like stepping into being a CEO. But need it? No, you don't need that. Okay. So let's go back to intuition. You got to give yourself the space to quiet the outside noise, ask yourself the questions, figure out what answers come up. You know, sometimes you may not have answers, but at least you try. Does that make sense? Sometimes you may be like, honestly, I have no freaking idea. I'm just stuck. And that may happen a lot until you build that self trust muscle. But at least you're taking the time and making the effort to trying to hone in to what your heart is telling you. Okay. Then we go into decision, right? Like we just have to as entrepreneurs, we just have to get really good at making decisions. Because if we don't, we go into decision fatigue. If we question every single move that we make, we go into decision fatigue. And if I go back to the beginning of the episode where I said we spend so much time figuring out what we need to do, and it's not one thing that's going to get us the next client, it's everything put together that's going to get us the next client. Then if you spend so much time making a decision about this one thing, you're forgetting about the whole umbrella of things that grows your business. Make sense? Let me go back to comments. I don't like the way that we set this up today because I can't see what you guys are telling me. Okay. Does it ever happen where the client becomes dependent on the coach? They're not as confident in themselves as they should be. How do you make sure that doesn't happen? Yeah, I mean, actually, I think it happens more times than not. And honestly, I think the most important thing to do here to make sure that that doesn't happen is you got to do your own work, right? Because if you're not doing your own work around like scarcity of not getting other clients, fear of not getting other clients, your own fears that you may have about people not liking you if they don't sign up with you again. Like you have to do your own inner work to be super empowered yourself, to be able to empower the other client to a level where you're teaching them how to rely on themselves versus relying on you. Like you have to give them tools and resources, kind of like what I'm talking about today, where you teach them how to fish, you don't give them the fish. Okay. And at the begin, here's the thing, like I work with a lot of new coaches. So at the beginning, obviously, a lot of times, helping you figure out very, very detailed where the fish is and how to get there, right? But once you get that foundation down, you really want to go to the next level in your coaching relationship where it's like you help them figure out how to fish for themselves. And honestly, this is what's going to make your clients sign up with you over and over and over again. Number one, because that's what's going to get them the most results, period, end of story. When you can create empowered clients, the more empowered that they are, the more changes that they're going to make, the more action that they're going to take, the more results that they're going to achieve. And the more that that happens, the more that they want to work with you over and over again. And then number two, because they are learning how to make decisions from within, right? So at the end of that coaching relationship, they come to a stage where it's like, I don't need you, I want you. And it's so much more easier for someone to be like, hey, yeah, I want, like, I just had a client, it's like our second or third round of working together. And she's like, yeah, by the way, obviously I'm signing up again. Don't even ask me. Like, don't even ask the question. It's like she just knows that that support is really beneficial for her, but she knows that she doesn't need it, right? That's when your clients come to that decision of like, I want to work with you over and over again because you're an asset to my business. You're not the key to my business. I'm the key to my business. Okay. Did that answer the question? Okay, so Lynn dropped an emoji. Beautiful. Enter for a one-on-one coaching session. It's not the case. I know what I do even after the coaching. Okay, I'm not sure I understand that question. So if you can just reword it for me a little bit, I'll come back and answer that. Makes perfect sense. Okay, perfect. So let me just keep going really quick. Where was I? Okay, so decision. So first thing, listen to your gut, open up the space. Then we need to decide if you're still feeling kind of like, okay, but I still don't know what to do. Okay, but I'm still lost. Okay, but I'm still questioning. A lot of that comes to step number two, which is you need to work on your decision making muscle. Meaning, if you're like, you know what, I want to do a live stream on this, that's what my intuition is telling me, that's what my self trust is telling me, then you got to make the decision around it and be like, cool, let's hop on the computer, let's set it up, let's send an email, let me break down the live stream, let me just go ahead and do it. If you're like, but should I do this or should I do that? You're still struggling in the decision phase where it's like really hard for you to just be like, okay, this is what my gut told me. It has been decided. And oftentimes that happens because you're wondering if there's another thing that could be more effective than that. But if you always go back to what I said at the beginning, it's not one thing that will grow your business. It's not one thing that will get you the clients. It's all of the things that you're doing together consistently that will get you fully booked out. That's it. So if you're ever like, my gut is telling me to do a live stream on this, and you can't make a decision on that, it's usually because you're feeling like Is this the thing that's going to get me the client? That's not the thing that's going to get you the client. It's that live stream plus the one that you did last week, plus the posts that you're posting throughout the week, plus the emails that you're sending, plus the calls that you're promoting, plus the follow-ups that you're doing, plus the podcast that you apply to, right? And it's not like to make it seem overwhelming. It's actually to release a little bit of the pressure that a lot of new coaches have, where it's like, is this post the thing? Is this email the thing, right? Like, is this perfect? Is this going to get me the client? When you're like, you know what, this may or may not, it doesn't really matter. It's just like everything I'm doing throughout the week, that's what's going to get me the client. That's what's going to get me the call. If I just keep doing all the things consistently, then it's going to be easier for you to make the decision because you're not putting so much power into one small thing. And it's not to say that you're not going to give it your all. It's not to say that you're not going to show up fully. It's not to say that that's not going to get you the client. It's to say that if you think about people's buying behavior, usually it doesn't happen from a live stream, right? Like, yes, a small percentage of your clients will come from one thing, but most of your clients will come from a, 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 a line of things, right? Like, most of your clients would have opened an email from you a month ago and then watched your live stream today and then read your blog post on Wednesday. And that's when she decided to hop on the call. That's usually the client buying journey. It's, yeah, a small percentage of people would be like, oh my God, I love that live stream, I'm just gonna sign on. I totally have done that myself. But most of your people are gonna be like, that live stream was really good, I loved it, let me just keep peeping around and see what I find in her group and see what I find in her Instagram and read her emails and open up a little bit more, click on different blogs, and then eventually they're like, I really dig this, this is exactly what I need. And because you're consistently making decisions to support your people and make the sale, then eventually that person is going to make the decision. So if you're still kind of like, I still don't know what to do, even when I open myself to trust myself as to what to do next, it's because you're having trouble just deciding on what to do. And a good way to release that is to just understand that it's not one thing. It's not one thing. It's not that post that you wrote today. It's not that live stream. It's not that email. It's literally all of the things in your business working together, right? To build that trust, to build that connection, to build that relationship that will eventually convert. Okay. This is what I always say, like, you got to give it 60 to 90 days of consistent internal and external work to see massive results. If you are consistently showing up internally and externally, doing all the things and doing all the internal work, there's no way that you will not succeed. There's no way. I have been doing this for over 6 years, and I promise you that if you do this consistently for a specific period of time, and you're doing the internal work where you believe that it's possible, where you believe in yourself, where you believe in your services, and you're constantly doing that work day in and day out, and you're constantly doing the external work of getting visible, marketing yourself, expanding your reach, selling more, getting really, really good at your sales calls, and you're doing both of those things for a longer period of time while you're tweaking and adjusting along the way, there's no way that your business will not grow. I promise you that. Um, okay, so level 2 is decision. Then we go into level 3, which is kind of like when you put level 1 and level 2, step 1 and step 2 together, and you're constantly utilizing them. Okay, so I call that, and a lot of people call this, inspired action. Okay, so once you get really, really good at like listening to yourself, making the decision, taking the action, listening to yourself, making the decision, taking the action, what's going to happen is you are no longer going to spend time thinking like, what should I be doing? Is this the right thing or is this the wrong thing? You're going to learn how to think like a successful CEO. You're going to learn to think like someone who knows what they're doing in your business. So what's going to happen is you're going to wake up one day and you're going to be like, oh my God, I had a conversation with someone in my group yesterday and they're really struggling with taking action in their business. So I'm going to contact my VA right now and I'm going to tell her to change my show episode from making sales to making decisions or to figuring out what to do next. That's inspired action, where you're no longer questioning what you do, where you're no longer being like, is this the thing? Am I good enough? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? Should I be listening to what that webinar said? Should I change my strategy? You're more like, I'm empowered. I know what to do. I wake up every day. I take action. And because you're doing that consistently, you're going to start seeing results. And those results are going to reinforce the fact that your inspired actions are way more powerful than what a post is telling you or what an ad is telling you. So, example, if you're not in a place where you're trusting yourself and where you're being very decisive and where you're taking inspired action, you're probably someone who's looking at an ad that says you got to invest in Facebook ads to make money. And then you're like, oh my God, I got to invest in Facebook ads to make money. And then you'll see one of my posts that says, hey, if you're just starting out and you don't have a lot of capital, I really don't think you should invest in Facebook ads and you should focus on organic marketing. And then you'll be like, oh my God, so I'm in the middle of my ad strategy from that ad. Now I'm going to go and listen to this. And then you'll see someone say, like, hey, forget about any of that. Just pitch to podcasts because that's what grew my business. And then you're going to go into that different strategy, right? So, like, when you are not in that space of trusting yourself, making decisions, taking inspired actions because you're empowered from within, you're jumping from idea to idea to idea to suggestion to suggestion to suggestion. You're not giving any of it your full focus and attention, right? You're not truly honing in to the work that you're doing on a consistent basis. And then it makes it harder for you to grow the business. It makes it longer. It makes it more tiresome, right? Because you're like halfway in here, halfway in there. You did a little bit here, you did a little bit there, right? And then you're like, well, but I don't really know what to do because obviously everything I decide to do doesn't work. And then your decision muscle goes down, your self trust muscle goes down, and then you start believing that you're not good at making decisions. So you get stuck in that cycle of like, well, but I don't know what to do. What should I be doing? What is the thing? Why is it not working for me? Okay. Is this making sense? I'm going to go back and check comments really quick. Let's see if this is making sense for you guys. Okay. Like the reminder, the one thing isn't the answer, and usually clients come from a line of things. Yes, exactly. Like I think you've even experienced this, Catherine, right? Like it's not that one thing. It's always just like the time, the consistency, all the things that you're putting together that's going to bring the client. And guys, it gets easier. It gets so much easier because what happens is you begin to feel a pipeline, right? So, like when you're just getting started, you have no one in that pipeline. And I hate the marketing terms, but I'm just going to use it because it actually helps me paint a picture. So, when you first get started, you have like a pipeline and you have no one in there. Like absolutely no one. You have no community, you have no one knows your work, nothing. So, then you start growing your community and the pipeline starts filling up here. And then you start doing live streams and sending emails and doing this and doing that and doing that. And then that person that started here it slowly goes down the pipeline, right? And then eventually that person or someone else or whoever is meant to soulfully work with you will work with you, right? But she had to go down through a trust process with you. Most of the time, that's what happens. But then what happens is because you're doing that over and over again, you're always bringing in people down the pipeline, right? So it's like new person in your community, someone who joined your email list, someone who heard you in a podcast. Then next week, someone else who saw you on Instagram. And then next week, someone else who watches your show all the time. So you always have people going down the pipeline. So it gets easier, right? Like it gets easier because if you do it consistently, then you're not always having to nurture people from the very, very beginning all the way to the end. But instead, you're nurturing people from the very beginning, the middle end, the end, and there's always people going down. So this gets easier over time, and booking clients does get easier, but it gets easier because you just get so much better at it, right? Like it doesn't get easier because you're never going to struggle or you're never going to doubt yourself or it's never going to feel a little hard. It gets easier because you just get really, really good at what you do and you just know and you start trusting the process so much more. Okay. All right. So, like learning to ride a bicycle, you start out with training wheels until you gain the confidence to go without them. Exactly. Okay, so that actually answers your own question, where it's like, if you want to build empowered clients, know when to take the training wheels off, right? Like that's such a big attribute that a good coach should have, right? Like at the beginning, yes, you're going to be the training wheels. That's why they hire you, because they have no idea how to find that balance, how to get to that next level, how to take the bicycle from point A to point B. That's a great analogy. But then once you're like, okay, you've taken the bicycle from point A to point B, from point B to point C, from point C to point D, I think you're good. Let's take up a wheel. Then you start teaching them deeper tools on how to trust themselves, on how to know that they don't need you, and how to know what to do when they feel like they do. Does that make sense? Okay, just makes sense. Exactly. Okay, beautiful. Those are all the comments that Facebook is showing me for some weird reason. I'm never doing a live stream like this again. This was kind of annoying, but I'm glad it worked out. Anyway, so that's the three-step process, guys. Intuition, decision, inspired action. Um, Let me know, which step of the process are you in? Like, do you feel really good when intuition and decision, that you're just consistently taking inspired action? Do you feel that you don't know how to hone into your intuition? Do you feel like it's just really hard for you to decide because there's just so many things that you could do? What step are you in? Let me know in the comments, and I'll kind of help you navigate that a little bit more so that you can solidify that step, right? And not ever feel like you don't know what to do, and always be able to figure out what to do on your own, whether you're working with a coach or whether you're not. And just a small disclaimer, this is not a live stream about like how you shouldn't work with a coach. It's a live stream all about how, whether you work with a coach or not, you're good. Period. End of story. You can still grow your business. You can still succeed. And you can still find the answers within yourself if you learn how to do it the right way, instead of like bright shiny object syndrome, where you're like, but I should do this and I should do that and I should do this and I should do that. um, this is really more about like, you got this. If you want the additional support, absolutely 100%, that is always extremely helpful on so many levels. But you never have to feel like, well, I can't succeed until this happens. Yeah, makes sense. um, that's it. That's it for me today. Set your calendars and set reminders for Mondays at 10 a.m. Eastern. Business Breakthrough with Barbara show will be live here every Monday at the same time. Also, if you want to be entered for a chance to win a free one-on-one coaching session with me, we do this every Monday. All you have to do is, whether you're here live or whether you're watching the replay, just drop me an emoji on this live stream, on this episode, and we'll go back at the end of the week and pick a winner. um, I don't ever have a ton of time to do free sessions anymore. So this is my way of telling you, I love you guys who come live and watch the replays. And I'm here to support you and see you grow. Because the more that you succeed, the more that you grow, the happier that you are in your business, the more that you're going to want to read my blogs, the more that you're going to want to join my programs, the more that you're going to want to work with me. So my job is always to help you guys get results in the most effective way possible. And also on Thursdays, I have a post that goes into the group where I ask you, what topics do you want to see? So if you're ever like, oh my God, I wish she would talk about this, I wish she would teach me about that, let me know in that post, because we typically 99% of the time use your responses to create more episodes. Have an amazing Monday. Thank you everyone for being here live. I will see you guys later and throughout the week. And drop me an emoji if you want to chat with me. Bye bye.